Before we start, the most important question of the tour is where is everybody from, so I know which countries not to make fun of on the tour. You guys? Spain, cool.
India.
India, whereabouts? Which city?
Bangalore.
Bangalore. I lived in Pakistan for 5 years, so I was over in India all the time. So we still got Spain over here, back there? Philippines, yeah. Cool. Where? Greece, sweet. Australia. First Australians of the season, whereabouts?
Sydney.
Sydney, much better than Melbourne. Unless somebody here on the tour is from Melbourne, then you have to physically fight over who's right. You guys? Brazil, Saúde! The Brazilians have always made my life a lot easier. Before this, I used to work in a pub crawl. The Brazilians, I can still be fun after 2 a.m. The British cannot. Back there, we got Slovakians, I believe, right?
Yes.
Then over here, Croatia, cool. Apparently we can understand each other fairly well with the Slavic languages. America?
Yes.
Right, judged by the accents. Whereabouts? Seattle. Sleepless? I'm sure you never get this joke. Back here? Israel. Whereabouts? Which city? So Tel Aviv is what I usually hit from this. Cool. And back there? India. Whereabouts? Dubai. Alright, I've been there a bunch of times. Although when it does come to India, Goa's where the heart's at. If I don't achieve anything by 30, I'm robbing a bank and just going to Goa. And back there? Portugal. Saúde as well, I guess. So my origin story is slightly more complicated. I was born in Czech Republic. I was raised in Kazakhstan. I spent most of my life in Pakistan. I consider myself Estonian. My dad is Bulgarian. My mom is Slovakian. I came here from Scotland. For the purposes of this tour, I'll be as Czech can be. Welcome to Untitled Tours. My name is Mike, and I'll be your tour guide for today. So guys, on the tour today, we're going to be seeing the Old Town and the Jewish Quarter. The whole tour takes somewhere in the ballpark of 2.5 to 3 hours. But we do take a break in the middle where you guys can use the bathroom, grab water, grab coffee, all that sort of stuff. With this company, we offer a couple of tours. I would say the second most important tour that we do, aside from this one, is the tour of the castle, which right over there we have the biggest castle complex in the entire world. We do a tour of that section of the river every day at 2 p.m. starting from right over here, and it's also a free walking tour. Now, to start off the tour, let's talk about the least controversial thing in the world. Let's talk about the thing that we always have conversations about. Let's talk about religion. What do you guys think is the most prominent religion in the Czech Republic currently?
Nothing.
You are correct. We are the second most atheist nation in the world, coming in about 70 to 75 atheists/Gnostics. Now the go-to question that I get on these tours is, Mike, you have so many beautiful churches. How can you guys be so atheist? The answer is, there's generally three. The first one, you'll get off like random Czech people on the streets, non-historical answers. If you ask us why we're so atheist, we'll say, we just don't have enough space in our heart for God because we like our beer, we like our fried food, we like a bunch of other things where it's a bit too early in the morning to talk about. With that said, a more historical answer, we'll look at the communist regime. Now, between 1948 and 1989, there was a single-party totalitarian state rule by the Communist Party of Czechoslovakia. And I'll speak more about it in detail later on in the tour, but for the time being, all that is important here is their stance on religion. Because in totalitarian systems, systems where the state has complete control over its population, they generally don't like religious people. Because if I believe in a higher power, I believe in something stronger than the government, and thus I am challenging the power of the government. And during the communist regime, it was not illegal to be religious here. However, if you were to be religious, your life would be fairly difficult. First of all, difficult to find priests, because a lot of them were kind of pushed out of the country. Difficult to find churches, because many of them, because they're all state-owned, would be sold and made into something else. And thirdly, if you were to be religious, again, not illegal, but it goes in your permanent record, and it might be very difficult to find a job or get your kids into university or a variety of other things. Now, for the people that say that we're so atheist because of the communist regime, clearly they have never heard of Poland or Slovakia, some of the most Catholic countries in the world that also had the system. And the third answer, and I would say the most accurate answer for why the Czechs are so atheist, kind of looks at the communist regime as something that killed off something that was already dying. And the roots of Czech atheism are absolutely ancient. They can be traced back to a single individual, though. The guy on the statue. There's a man by the name of Jan Hus, who ironically enough was a preacher in the 15th century. And two things made him very special as a preacher. Thing number one, the guy preached in Czech. Mind-blowing at the time because everybody else was preaching Latin. Guess who doesn't speak Latin over here? Literally everyone. So all of a sudden you have a person who speaks a language of the people with a lot of passion, with a lot of charisma. And the second thing that makes this guy special is also going to spoil this entire story for you if you know even a bit about European history, is this man openly preaches against the Catholic Church. Catholic Church, not big fans of constructive criticism. They invite Jan Hus for a bit of a conversation to Constance, Germany, and by a bit of a conversation, I mean they tie him to a stake and they burn him alive. Now, as soon as the followers of Jan Hus, who call themselves the Hussites, they're still Christians, but they don't consider themselves Catholics. A lot of historians refer to them as the Proto-Protestants, kind of the beginning of the Protestant movement before Martin Luther. As soon as his followers find out that he has been killed at the stake, they march into the new town hall of Prague, which you won't see on the tour today, but if you want to go stand where this historical event happened, give me a map, I'll point it out for you. But essentially they walk into the new town hall, which imagine a big tower with a window on top. That's where the Catholic noblemen that sent that man over to his death are residing. And the Hussites, they run in and they get into a big shouting argument with the Catholics. They say, what you did, God thinks it's wrong. The Catholics say, no, what we did, God thinks it's right. No, what you did, God thinks it's wrong. No, what we did, you don't get very far with that conversation. So finally, the Hussites say, you know what, I can't judge you, you can't judge me, let's do a judgment by God. To which the Catholics say, sure, wait, what are you doing? Because immediately they open up the nearest window, grab the nearest Catholic nobleman, and chuck him out of the window. Then grab the next one, out, so on and so forth, until we throw out a grand total of 14 Catholic noblemen down to their death in what is known as the first Defenestration of Prague. First, because we would do this multiple times, and Defenestration, because we did it so much, there is a special word for it. Coming from Latin defenestra, out of the window. There we go. Remember this moment. Nothing will be as exciting as this. That was shorter than usual. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Hello. Ladies and gents, what you have just seen is said to be the second most disappointing tourist attraction in all of Europe, according to TripAdvisor.com.
What's number one?
Wondering who's number one? That is meant to be the Mona Lisa. According to all the reviews, they say it's too small. Number two is meant to be the Little Mermaid out in Copenhagen. All the reviews say it's too small. And number three is meant to be the Clock Tower Show of Prague. All the reviews say it's not impressive enough.
That's funny.
Okay. Nobody died? Good. So yes, in the age of iPhones and cameras and all that sort of stuff, this will not blow your mind. However, it's from the 15th century and it still functions on 2/3 of all of its original parts. Which is, do we have any engineers in the group? There we go. Yeah, you can see how impressive it is. With that said, when it does come to the show, let me describe what actually just happened. So if I could have your attention on the astronomical clock, everybody sees it, it's the big tower behind me. Yeah, nobody's legally blind, makes my job a lot easier. In the center, we have the actual astronomical clock. That's the one with the blue circle, the red circle, the black circle. Everybody sees those? Yeah. So to the left there's two statues, to the right there's two statues. And those four statues altogether are meant to represent the three mortal sins of man and death. Starting from the far left, we have a guy looking at himself in the mirror. That's meant to be the sin of vanity. Basically the modern day equivalent of somebody with a selfie stick. To the right of him, we have the sin of greed, which is meant to be a Jewish moneylender. In one hand he has a stick to beat you with, second hand he has a bag of gold to lend to you. And that is meant to be the sin of greed. You might be wondering, Mike, that's a pretty anti-Semitic portrayal of the Jews. And the answer is yes. Welcome to the 15th century. We'll speak more about medieval anti-Semitism when we're in the Jewish quarter. In the center we have the astronomical clock, which I'll speak about in just a second. The first statue on the right is a skeleton with a bell and an hourglass. What could that possibly represent? Def, there we go. I always do ask the group though, because every once in a while somebody will yell something super absurd. I once had a guy yell, "Pirates!" With the sort of confidence that only exists among Americans, and it's not meant to be a pirate. And also, if you look at our country on a map, not a lot of piracy to be done here. With that said, to the right of Def, we have a Turkish prince with a big baggy hat, a big cheesy grin, and a lout. And this is meant to be the sin of infidelity, because the Turks, being seen as non-Christians, were seen as the infidels. There's a fear that they will sing their songs and lure the good Christian woman away to a life of merriment and sin and infidelity towards one's partner. Now, every hour on the hour, there is a show. And in the show, you have the three mortal sins: vanity, greed, and infidelity, shaking their heads no. Def shakes his bell and shakes his head yes. And that is meant to represent Def is saying to the three mortal sins, "Hey guys, it's time for y'all to die." To which they all say, "No, Def, please give us one more hour." And Def says, "Okay, you get one more hour, every hour on the hour. It's not I'll do it tomorrow, but in clock tower form." Now, as that happens, right after that, we have these two blue doors that you can't really see from this angle, but they pop open, and you see the 12 apostles of Jesus Christ walk by. And then finally, the crown jewel of the clock tower show is the golden rooster that extends, flaps its wings, and says kikiriki or kurukuku or karakaka or cock-a-doodle-doo or whatever sound a rooster makes in your culture. That's the sound that it makes, and everybody claps with a singular tear coming out of their eyes, saying, "This is the most beautiful moment of my life. I will remember it forever." Except for that's not what happens. This is from the 15th century. So when I say the statues shake their heads no, they do shake their heads no, but it's very gentle, and the rooster extends by about this much and doesn't go cock-a-doodle-doo, it goes eh, and then everybody just stands here in shock. You saw the crowds that we have out here. Everybody, and this is April, it's still warm, it's still like reasonably cool.
Yeah.
If you come here in like June, there's an ambulance parked over here just to take care of like all the people that like heat stroke out. So like have a family of 5 that is now a family of 3 because 2 of them are in the ambulance, and then they see this show and they write like the worst TripAdvisor reviews. If you ever have a chance, read the 1-star reviews. Like people will do a 5-paragraph essay about how terrible this free attraction is, but really it's an essay. 50 crowns go up to the top, that's exactly 10 euros, and it is a great place to snap your pictures because you get to see all of the old town from there, but also you want to go up there about 10 minutes before the full hour, because 10 minutes you have like people standing here like adults, arms crossed, having grumpy moods, but 5 minutes for the show, it's like showing each other their body, their arms around each other, kids, and then there is no other place in the world. Come on, Mike, I'm in Old Town Square, how do I tell the time? Use your phone, it's significantly easier. But Mike, I want to use the clock tower. Fine, look all the way up to the top, you have the second clock there in the 18th century. It's a lot easier to read. But Mike, I want to use the bottom part of the clock tower. Even better, 19th century, we add that black and white clock over there. There's another one on the other side. I've been working as a tour guide for 8 years, and I've learned that if I go into the detailed explanation of how to read time from this, half the tour goes into a mild clinical coma. So if you really want to tell time from this, feel free to ask me as we walk from point A to point B, but instead I'm just going to point out a couple cool things about the clock on its own. Without so if I can have your attention again into the black circle, red circle, and blue circle. Everybody sees those? There's a sun handle there, which is a handle with the sun on it. That travels in different circles. That will show you where the sun is in the sky. Blue means it's day, red means dawn or dusk, black means night. There's a second handle which is, and I need to check, a white ball currently. That will show you the different moon phases. So that actually switches around as the moon phases change, and also it's traveling through the different astronomical signs, so that shows you which sign is currently in season. And this is all automated from the 15th century, still on 2/3 original parts. The engineers will appreciate it. But that said, a couple more things I want to point out before we go to a quieter part of the city. First one right over there, Church of Our Lady Before the Teen, a beautiful, beautiful church where the main question I get about it is, Mike, how do I go inside? Because people try going inside and do a circle around it, they don't find entrance, they do another circle, they give up, they go back home, they have a beer. To get inside of this church, and this is kind of bizarre, during religious holidays, such as Easter, they might open up the back doors, so it's like easier entry, but when it comes to getting into the church on regular days, it's very difficult to do so, because to enter the church, you have to walk through a different building. Those 2 buildings up front of the church, they used to be a monastery that was owned by the church, but it was privatized and sold over and over and over and over and over again, because what's the point of having a monastery in the heart of your town if you're not religious? So what we have there now is a beautiful art gallery, and like a pizza coffee place. And to enter the church, you have to walk through the pizza coffee place to get inside. So if you are looking to get inside of that church, grab a coffee on the way. And the last building I want to point out before we go to a quieter part of the city is right over there. That's the House of the Minute, known as the House of the Minute because that's where they would sell hand-rolled cigarettes. They would take about a minute to smoke, which, by the way,